Hello students of class 11. Here is the first chapter for you, the living world. Now the planet Earth is a habitat of diverse form of life. Millions of plants, animals have been identified here, but a large number still remain unknown for us. In this chapter, you will study about the various means and ways of scientific method that has been discussed with help of identifying and naming of these newly discovered organisms. So, the living world includes the various type of organisms. In this living world, there are various type of habitats like forests, mountain, desert, oceans, freshwater bodies, springs, polar region, and almost every place on earth there are life forms. Now, living things possesses certain characteristics that make them different from the non-living things that you have already studied in class 10 in chapter life processes. Now, what are the characteristics of living organisms? Few of them are very important that we can easily identify. They are growth, that is the increase in mass, reproduction, that is producing offsprings, consciousness, that is respond to stimuli, and capable of carrying out metabolism, that is biochemical reaction that occur inside the body. Now, what are the major characteristics of living organism that I have discussed right now? That is growth. Every living organism increase in size, that is increase in mass or increase in number of individual or cell. In multicellular organisms, growth occurs by cell division or increase in the number of cells. But have you noticed that the growth in plants is throughout their lifetime? Why it is so? Because of the meristematic tissue present in the growing tips. Now, in animals, this growth is restricted to a certain age. Throughout growth period, the replacement of lost cell occur in the lifetime. In unicellular organism, growth can be observed under the microscope by simply counting the number of cells. In vitro conditions, non-living organisms like mountain, boulders, sand dunes, they also grow in size. Can we say they are living? No, not. Why? Because the growth in these non-living things are external growth, while the growth in living things are internal growth. So growth therefore cannot be taken as a sole defining characteristics for living organism. It must be accompanied by the specific condition under which it can be observed in the living organism. So it to be noted that dead organism does not grow, while living organisms only grow. So reproduction is a characteristic of living things. It is a process of producing offsprings possessing features similar to those of parents. In multicellular organism, the mode of reproduction is generally sexual, which involves the fusion of two kinds of gametes, one male gamete, another female gamete. But some living organisms also reproduce by asexual means. Now, for example, fungus, they multiply and spread very fast by producing millions of asexual spores. In yeast or hydra, budding occur to produce new organism. Unicellular organisms like bacteria, algae and amoeba reproduce by increasing the number of cells through cell division. So here growth is synchronized with reproduction. Some organisms like mules, sterile honeybee, infertile human couples, they do not reproduce. Hence, can we say that reproduction is the only inclusive defining character of living organisms? No, not. It is an important differentiating characteristics of living organism from non-living organisms, as the latter do not reproduce. Next come metabolism. So what is metabolism? It is another characteristic feature and defining characteristics of living things. All living organisms are made up of chemicals which has constantly been formed or changed in some other molecules or other biomolecules. The sum total of anabolic and catabolic reactions that continuously occur in a living cell or a living body is called metabolism. So thus we can say metabolism is equal to anabolism plus catabolism. Metabolism occur in all unicellular and multicellular organisms. Here how can we say what is anabolism? Anabolism is a constructive reaction, that is the process of building up something or synthesis of complex substances. Like for example photosynthesis, it is an anabolic process. While catabolism is the process of breakdown of complex substance into simpler substance. For example, respiration, releasing waste outside the body. These are catabolic processes. So, metabolic reactions cannot be demonstrated outside the body. However, metabolism can be considered as a defining characteristics of living things without any exception, because non-living objects do not exhibit metabolism. Another very important characteristics of living organism is cellular organization. The cells are the building blocks of all living things, whether plants, animals, or humans. The unicellular organisms are made up of single cell, while multicellular organisms are formed of millions of cells. The cells contain protoplasm, that you have already learned what is protoplasm, and cell organelles, which perform several activities at the cellular level and result into various life processes. Next type of life process that is important in living organism is consciousness, which differentiate it from the non-living things. All living things respond to stimuli, either a prokaryote or an eukaryote. Now, the various external factors to which they respond are light, temperature, pollutants, water, even other organisms. Now, light duration or photoperiod affects many type of organisms including plants and animals, like those who are seasonal breeders. Seasonal breeders are those organisms that breed in a particular season. Like for example, the flowers that bloom during the winter. So all living things respond to chemical entering their bodies. Humans are superior to all living things because they have an additional ability of self-consciousness. Therefore, consciousness can be considered as a defining property of living organism. However, in human being, it is difficult to define them. Can you define consciousness in a patient who is lying in coma for a long time, who is supported by machines that replace the heart and lungs, and they are almost branded with no self-consciousness? So next come the body organization. The body of a living organism is organized into several components and subcomponents. Now these components and subcomponents cooperate with each other for functioning the whole body. Like you have read, cells, group of cells form the tissue. Tissues together unite together to perform a particular function to form organ, and the organs together form the organ system, and thereafter the organism. So this is the biological hierarchy or biological hierarchy of the cellular colony of the life form. In the same way, we can also see that proton, neutron and electron combine to form an atom, and the atoms again form compound. So physical and biological hierarchy is seen in living organism. Physical hierarchy, like non-living components, atoms and molecules aggregate to form compound, which finally enter the living world. So students, you see, there are some other characteristics of living organisms as well. Here we have discussed some of the very important defining characteristics of living organisms. However, organisms also have many other features, like they have a particular shape, size, life cycle, movement, self-regulation, variations, adaptation, healing and repair, excretion and even death. So this was all about today's topic. In the next video, I will be discussing about the taxonomical hierarchies of various type of organisms.